Welcome back. Welcome back. Well, we've come here to the headquarters of the Indian Communist Party, and we're here to meet the General Secretary because of a vital new development that's been growing leading up to this election. Everybody has always talked about this election or past elections as being elections between two umbrella organizations, one headed by Congress and the other headed by the BJP. But those are only two. Now everybody talks about the third front, which you are the most senior member of, really. How did that come about?
Well, I think a situation has risen in our country where we cannot have just a two-party system or a two-front system. I think there is now growing space for a third front, and that's what we are attempting to do, bring together other non-Congress, non-BJP parties to give a secular alternative.
And you've always said that you wouldn't go into a coalition with the BJP or the NDA, to use all these initials. But now, more recently, you're saying that you wouldn't, under any circumstances, enter into a coalition with the Congress group. Why have you got tougher on that?
Well, last time in 2004, our main concern was to keep the BJP out of government. We didn't want them to continue with their communal politics. So we extended support to a Congress-led coalition government, though we were not part of the government. But in 5 years, our experience with the Congress government is that they have gone back on the commitments they made in a common minimum program that they formulated. So we would not like the Congress also to be back in office.
And the major differences in foreign policy are to do with too much reliance on the United States.
Yes. Great dependence on the United States in the political, economic and military spheres.
That's the strongest thing you feel, and also economic policy as well.
We withdrew support to this government. We withdrew support to this government last year on their foreign policy and pro-American stance.
And what do you think are your chances in this election? We don't know what happened in the 2 days of elections that have taken place already, but are you confident of overtaking the two traditional leading parties?
Well, I think the 9 parties which have got together before the elections, we have election alliances, would be able to get sufficient strength so that after the elections there will be another stage of realignment of forces, and the other non-Congress secular parties, I think, would come on board with us.
I see. So you could be the next government?
Well, we aim to form the next government.
And would you consider, under any circumstances, being the Prime Minister?
No, I'm not in Parliament, and my work as General Secretary of the party entails mostly organizational work. But we have not been in the government at the center so far. My party runs state governments, 3 state governments, but in the central government we have not been in any coalition government so far. We will have to take a call on that after the elections. My central committee will have to decide if there is the possibility of a non-Congress government, then I think my party will have to seriously consider joining the government.
Right, and in that situation of a non-Congress government, don't people say to you now during the elections, but we want to know who's going to be your Prime Minister?
No, unlike the BJP and the Congress, who have projected a prime ministerial candidate, ours is more of a federal alliance. We have a number of regional parties, along with the left parties. We are not regional, but all of us feel that the question of prime ministership should be decided after the elections. And since we are going to the people in different states with our own platform, our programs, we have state level important leaders. Many of them have been chief ministers of the states they have been governing. So we have enough people, we'll select one of them after the elections.
I see. And in terms of the word communist, how do you how do you define that now? Do you feel, Prakash, that you are a Marxist communist or a Maoist communist or a new sort of communist?
Well, the party I belonged to was considered to be a party which was at one stage denounced by the Soviet Communist Party and the Chinese Communist Party. So it took us some time to realize that we have to apply Marxism to our own Indian conditions and work out our own path and strategy. That is why we have emerged as the largest left party in the country. So we do not follow models elsewhere. So as you know, we have been in parliamentary politics for now more than half a century, and our party was the first to win a democratic election anywhere in the world, in Kerala, the state of Kerala. We formed a government after winning elections. So very much part of the Indian political democratic system.
Well, we thank you very much for this conversation. You've given us a very clear picture of where you would like to lead India, and we thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In such a large country and the world's biggest ever democratic election, the role of the media obviously is all important. And one of the largest media groups in the country is the XHT group, the Hindustan Times group. And the person who heads it is with us right now, Shobhana Bhatia. Welcome, good to have you with us. Let me begin by asking you, how important, how powerful do you think the media will be in the result of this election?
I would say that the media will be quite powerful in the sense of the role that they play in the coming elections. The media has played a very important role, and we've had the electronic media around honestly only for the last 10-12 years. Before that, as you might be aware, we had the electronic media which was largely state controlled. So now with the advent of so many new television channels, a plethora of newspapers, we have a very vibrant media, both vernacular and the English language media. And the vernacular media in particular plays an extremely important role in terms of helping form public opinion on issues and taking stands.
And what about this extraordinary thing of, because of the numbers involved, that the election is taking place in 5 parts over 5 weeks and so on?
Yes.
Does that make things more difficult in terms of confidentiality and all of those things?
It doesn't really change anything in terms of confidentiality, but what it does do is, because the elections are so spread over 4 to 5 weeks, and the Election Commission recently banned any sort of exit polls, but somehow news travels, and it travels in terms of which party is doing better than the other, and it does influence the voter to some level, and it does blur the issues also. So I would say that having it spread over 4 or 5 weeks, it is a bit of a security issue, and that's the reason why it's become a necessity. But it doesn't really make it the ideal span in terms of the people who are actually contesting elections. It's just too spread.
And there will inevitably be leaks. I mean, no one has published the polls against the law, have they? It's just that there are leaks, there are conversations in bars or wherever.
There are leaks, there are different estimates, some by media groups, some through exit polls which are done which cannot be published or broadcast, and some by various intelligence agencies. You have multiple intelligence agencies who are also at this moment assessing what the voter turnout is, how they voted, who they voted for, and all this news leaks. Some of it is, of course, news which is with some integrity, and a lot of it is kite flying and speculation, but it does eventually poison the mind of the voter who's yet to go and exercise his franchise.
And apart from that factor, is there one issue more than any other that will decide this election? I mean, is it the economy? Is it Kashmir? Is it is there one subject?
Well, if there is one subject, I would say it's only the economy, because otherwise, India being so vast and it's almost like so many nations all into one, the issues are very diverse, and there are different issues pertaining to different regions which actually dominate the minds of the electorate. But yes, I think the economy is one central issue which is in a sense of concern to all the political parties across the various constituencies that are going to polls.
And in terms of personalities, are personalities important in an Indian election? Are those
very important?
They are?
Yes, they are. They are very important. In fact, there are very few parties where they actually have a very captive vote bank, and that vote bank gets transferred irrespective of whether you have a lamppost over there or not. Otherwise, it is the individual who matters for a lot. And there are many areas which are seen as pockets of influence of the BJP or the Congress party or some other party, but if you have a very popular candidate there, that vote transfers. So with the exception of one or two parties which actually retain their vote bank irrespective of the candidate, I would say in most other constituencies, in most political parties, it is the candidature that is important. Of course, the party's vote is there as well, but it's not like, it's all on the basis of who you're voting for, BJP or Congress. It's really on the individual. And the role of the individual becomes extremely important.
Well, you've given us a marvellous thumbnail sketch of what's going on, and we will wait with you to find out what the score is on May the 16th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Well, of course, there are other things going on at the moment in India besides the election. So before we return to politics, let's take a look at perhaps India's most famous industry and its biggest megastar from Bollywood in just a moment.